Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to take a look at the watercolor brush markers by altenew. I don't know how old these are, but I was recently contacted by altenew and they asked if they could send some of their watercolor products for review. And I've enjoyed watercolor brush markers in the past from other brands, so I thought, yeah, sure, that would be fun to try those out. So these come in packs of 10 and they have different color family themes. They sent me the Spring Garden set, which has a bunch of bright colors, and it comes in a plastic wallet here that you could store them in. I recommend you keep these tip up, either in their package or in a jar, something like that, so you don't end up having any leaking. You definitely don't want these tipped down because there's no pad on the inside of the marker, like, you know, like, well, for instance, here you can see my robe. It's chilly down in my studio, so I was like, I'm gonna push up my sleeves. No one will know I'm in my fuzzy robe, but the jig is up. The jig is up, my friends. So like a marker like this is a Mozart one. There's many different brands that have these. These you could actually store tip down because there's a like a felt pad in the center, similar to what your alcohol markers have. So I keep these horizontal actually. These though, I want to keep them tip up. I only have them on my work surface here because I was just using them to color some of these images. These are essentially a water brush pen. I made a swatch for the for each color just because all you see is that little dot there, and the colors look a lot darker in the container than they actually are. So what I did was I just cut some strips of watercolor paper. I tried to find the thinnest watercolor paper I could, and I just swatched them out and added some water to them just to blend them out, and then I used clear tape just to tape them onto the barrels. I like to do that for marker swatches. If I had all the time in the world, I would do it to every marker I owned, but it is a time-consuming endeavor, so a set of 10 is perfect for this sort of technique. And then I had leftover strips here, so I just put them on this tag. I did a watered down version, and then I just did a full color swatch at the top just so you can kind of see the difference there. Now obviously you can water them down as much as you want. These are a dye. They're going to be pretty flat. There's not going to be really any granulation, but you can add water and get some interesting effects just by having drops of water down there and get that watercolory look, although they're a dye. Since they're a dye, they're probably going to be fading. So if you're doing artwork with this, it'd be best on a card or in a sketchbook, something that doesn't need to last 100 years. But the colors are vibrant, bright, and they blend pretty well. So the first thing I did when I was playing with my supplies is I just grabbed a piece of watercolor paper and I mixed some of the primaries together and mixed them out to a neutral. Now this set does not come with a brown, but you can mix a nice rich brown by using your 3 primary colors there, or kind of close to the 3 that you have. I didn't realize there was a bright blue in here when I was mixing that, and I used that kind of tealy dusk color. You can get a nice gradient of colors here. This would be full strength, and this would be blending them out with a little bit of water. I prefer to have brighter colors because you can always make them duller, but you can't always make you can't make the duller colors any brighter. So if you have to choose between one color family, I would go for the brighter ones. These sell for $40 a set, or $39.95, so, or $99, you know what they do. It's essentially $40, give or take a penny. And these 10 colors, I totally lost my train of thought. So math. So 40 divided by 10 is 4, so it's $4 a piece, and you will have a water brush when you're done. You can wash it out, use it as a water brush, or you could refill it with an ink. So if you have some water-based ink, perfect. Liquid watercolors would be perfect for this. Liquid watercolors that are not like the Dr. P.H. Martin Hydrus, those have pigments in them, but like your typical like Blick liquid watercolors, Sargent liquid watercolors, that sort of thing, they're going to be perfect in these. So you could definitely refill them on your own, or I do think that altenew they have refill inks for their ink pads. I think they have refill inks for these. I know they do for their alcohol markers. So I can't say 100% certain, but if they don't have re-inkers for these pens, you could take a dye-based re-inker and add water, because a dye-based ink for an ink pad is going to be thicker than what you want here and more concentrated. So just kind of keep that in mind. You might need to, you know, figure it out on paper how much water you need before you mix it up, but I would just put a few drops of re-inker and add water to it till you get the shade you like. I'm not fancy. That's what I would do. All right, so obviously I mentioned these don't come with these bands of color. You got to add those. Now let's take a look at the size of the tip here. I'm just gonna, let me grab a piece of scrap paper while I'm at it. I'm just gonna set these aside for a minute. I'm actually gonna use these in a project, but I thought I would film my review before I finish these cards because I'm going to do some mixed media on top of this, and I wanted those to be just the markers for the review, just so I don't you know, so I don't do stuff to it that makes you think, wow, those markers are fantastic, it's so three-dimensional and this and that, you know, but I've done other stuff to it, so I just want to keep it fair. Also, the camera angle is a little bit weird because sometimes I get some really bad glare, and so I've been filming with my table propped a little bit so I won't get so much glare. So take a look here. These have a pretty fine tip, which is really nice. Now, altenew is a stamp company, so if you're not, I'm just going to get this started. I like to have a little ceramic dish. Found this at the Dollar Tree of all places. I thought that was so cute, and I love the little ridges kind of keep these inks from just bleeding into one another. And I would get it started on like a little dish or something, and this is nice because then you can pick it up with another color, and you could do some mixing and blending, do some ombre effects, which is really nice. So I get it started on that. So you can get a thick line or a thin line. You could go, I'm not a brush letterer, but you could do thin to thick pretty easily, especially if you knew what you were doing. But you could also do an ombre by picking up another color on it, and then, you know, do your fancy schmancy lettering that I don't know how to do. But, you know, you get that pretty ombre look. And it doesn't hurt these pens because it doesn't suck that color up into the body. It just has it on the bristles, and then you just scribble it off when you are when you're done with it. Now, I want to share a comparison between this and the Jane Davenport Mermaid Markers, because those are also very popular. I like those a lot myself. Oh, that's a shimmery one. Let's just get a plain one here. Is this? I think that's just a plain one. So tip size on the Jane Davenport marker is bigger. Now that's, I think, you know what? I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I think it's hard to see like that. Let me, hopefully that's a little bit better. Can you tell that, okay, so the tip on the Jane Davenport marker here, which is in my left hand, is fatter than the one and a little bit longer than the altenew one in my right hand. So it just depends on what you like better. Now let's look at how thin of a line we can get. Let me get this started because it's not fair. I haven't used this one in a while, so let's make sure we're fair and square. So this is putting out more ink, so I do have to work a little quicker if I want a fine line. Well, let me do that. And of course it's capable of a thicker line because it's got more bristles. So it just depends on what you prefer, honestly. Since nowadays, if I'm going to use these, I'm probably less likely to be using them for stamping and more likely to be using them in like a sketchbook. So I generally prefer the fatter tip, but that's personal preference. That's all that is. Quality-wise, I find them to be very similar. And the quality of the ink-wise, I also find them to be very similar. So I don't have these all swatched out, but I have many tutorials where I've used these. I have reviews of these. And I'm going to keep them together, to be honest. I'll probably put them all together and, like, I don't know if they'll all fit in this awesome Café du Monde tin. I love funky tins that actual things came in that I like. I love that coffee. So I might have to get a different can. I have to go get a soup can. Oh, I got a soup can right here because I'm so fancy. Is this any bigger? No, it's no bigger. I need a bigger can. Gonna have to go get some chock full of nuts coffee or something because that's gonna be a bigger can. Get some Folgers. Okay. Boy, this review is going downhill quick. So let's just take a look at a few of these things that I colored with these. I basically just did some, you know, scored some on a palette, added them with water, then overlaid some colors. I just did this one. I've been doing a bunch of these together. I did this one first. Let's set that one and we'll do some glazing on that one. But, you know, they blend together pretty well. I'm just using hot press watercolor paper here. The colors are super vibrant and saturated, but like I mentioned, you can mix the colors to create new colors. So if I wanted to make a brown, I'd probably start off with a little bit of orange. I'd probably do orange and blue. Let's see what we get there. See, it makes kind of like a brown, and then, oh, got some of that mauve in there, or mauve. You know, so I can make a brown if I want to, just mix till I get it. And now another thing you could do is, you know, if you use up a color, you could always refill it with a color you want. When you want to clean this, just wipe it out on a napkin or squeeze out the excess onto your palette. This will just wipe off with a clear rag when you're done. So glazing. Glazing is when you take a layer, you add a layer of transparent color over another layer. That's what I'm going to do here. The thing I thought would be pretty with this flower would be to like do how there's like these kind of like lines drawn in there. I thought it'd be pretty to do like every other line dark. So let's zoom in again, because I like making you seasick here. And I'm just moving this like this so I don't have to set my hand in it. And I'm gonna actually I'll start inside here. I like to make the insides a little bit darker. And then let's start with this one. So it's pretty easy to lay down a flat color. When you're doing this so you don't get streaks, what you want to do is just try to keep that wet edge. So start on one end and work to the other. Don't like jump around too much, because that's when you'll get kind of streaks. And you could end up with like blooms and blossoms. Now this one overlaps, so I'm just going to follow this whole column down. If you feel like you need to add more color, what I would do is squeeze it over your palette so you don't end up getting a big blob on your work. If you're doing something like a stamped image where you would have, you know, where you might ruin it by getting a big blob of color there. I'll come back to that one after that first one's dried so I can get a little bit of a glazing layer. I kind of wish it didn't have these little double lines in there, because then I'm like, well, which one do I do dark and which one do I do light? So you can layer up your colors to make them more intense. I think the colors on their own, I don't think the colors are quite as bright as the Jane Davenport Mermaid Markers, like the original ones. I'm not sure if those are still available anymore. They probably are on her website, but I don't know if you can just walk into a store anymore and buy them. I'll check online. I'll put links to everything online. I have been very impressed with the altenew products. I tried their professional, or their new artist grade watercolors, the regular ones in the metallics, and they were really nice. I actually really liked the colored ones. I never tried the 36 set that they had. The metallic ones were pretty good. They were very similar to a lot of the other popular metallic pens on the market. So you can see you can get a variety of colors just by adding water on your first layer, or layering several layers on top of each other. But in mass tone, they are still pretty vibrant. Oh, you know what, I can show you, because like here we've kind of got the color, then I've dragged it out with water, then I've added color on top. So I don't know if that's a real accurate look at mass tone, but on these examples, the top of each swatch kind of has a little bit more of the actual color as it comes out of the pen. What can be interesting though is when you add water, sometimes you see whatever dyes they made with it, you'll see them kind of split, and you'll see like a little bit of blue, a little bit of like more reddish color. So that's kind of neat. I really like their moss green. It's a beautiful sap green color. They're nice. They're nice. If you don't have any water brush pens, any ink-filled water brushes, I should say, and you want a fine tip, these are definitely a good option for you. Let's do a little blending thing here while I've got this out. We can blend a couple colors together. I think that might be kind of fun. When I'm blending, I generally will go dark to light. I find that a little bit easier. So let's start with this kind of rubine color. Get a little bit of that going there. Why am I going that way? I should go. Probably because I'm running out of space. Let's go this way. And then we can go with this Autumn Blaze. And I know they designed their products to coordinate with each other. I'm not sure if there are ink pads with these same names. I checked against the watercolors, and the watercolors in the 24 set didn't match up with their ink pad colors, but I'm thinking these might. It seems like I remember seeing Rubelite somewhere else. So see, they blend out really nice. Very easy to use. This is watercolor paper, but it's not really expensive watercolor paper I'm working on right here. This is just the Fabriano Studio stuff. It's like 25% cotton, 75% wood pulp, very affordable. I get mine usually at Jerry's Artorama, or sometimes you can find them on Amazon, but you get the bigger packs at like Jerry's Artorama. Now if I have to go to a darker color from a lighter one, sometimes I'll just go back over it. So I'll go, do we want to finish it with this? Maybe we'll add another color. That's kind of fun. This is a fun little thing to do when you're like, I want to make some art, but I'm feeling blah, I don't know what to do. Oh, shoot. Why is it, was that the color I just used? Where'd that color come from? Well, we're going to blend it in. Huh. Was that the color? Maybe that wasn't the color I just used. I thought it was. I think it was. I don't know where that green came from though. Let's mix in another yellow though. Let's mix in this yellow. Maybe I didn't use that yellow. That might have been why. Let's mix that in. So I think they're pretty forgiving. I think they blend a little bit easier than like alcohol markers because they're more fluid. I'm going to have to, you know what, before I forget, let me just wipe that tip off before I forget and end up with a mess. Go into this color next. I like that color. That's a bit of a jump in colors, but that's alright because we can go back. We can go back to the moss and blend them together a little bit. And you could always use your water brush too. And since these are more fluid, they will sit on the tip of your brush a little bit longer. So keep that in mind. Make sure you wipe them off when you're done. I'll do that off camera because that's not very exciting. But look how nicely they mix. I mean, look how bright that violet is when I bring that into that blue. And again, when I go back in with the blue. And you could do, this is a really fun practice, like practice your blending and then take those practice pieces that you did and then you could do like die cuts. You could like die cut a word or a bunch of hearts or butterflies or something out of the rainbow thing, either, or ombre or whatever you ended up blending and make a really fun sentiment for a card. And with this, because this selection of colors is so bright and saturated, they mix really well. So if you're looking for one set to start with, I would recommend this color path, this colorway, just because you have such a variety of colors and you can always mix down and make those duller colors like brown and whatnot. So that's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend these. I mean, 40 bucks is a little pricey for 10 pens, but if you thought about buying 10 water brushes, I mean, a water brush costs more than 4 bucks usually, so I don't think it's out of line. I can't remember what I paid for my mermaid markers. I think it might have been $40 for the set, the larger set, and I used a coupon, but if you want that finer tip, the altenew ones are the way to go. So, I think that's it. Oh, by the way, the flower stamp there is from this set called Wonderland. If you're looking for that, I'll try to remember to link that up too. And that pretty much does it for me. Yeah, I like them. I think they're priced fair. I think they're priced fairly. I think the colors are great. The only thing that's really lacking, I would rather have a brown than a gray, quite frankly. But that's personal preference, or even more than that teal, or even more that green. I'd rather have a brown, just because if you're painting like flowers and stuff, you kind of need brown for stems and bark and animals and stuff like that. It's nice to have a brown. But they probably have a set that's all earth tones for like animals and people. And so I don't know. I should do more research before I do a review, I guess. I do research on the thing I'm reviewing, but sometimes I don't check all the things. I think they have like them by seasons. I think that's how they do it. So probably like the autumn pack would have lots of browns. So there you have it. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, by the way, the ink I used to stamp those flowers is the altenew Pigment Ink Obsidian Crisp oil-based ink. And it worked pretty well. It didn't smudge with my watercolors, so that would be a good pick for ink to use with those if you don't have a waterproof ink. There you have it. That's all for me for today. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.